Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this year's edition of our predictions webinar. And as we come to the end of 2025, we're all thinking about which topics will have the biggest impact on the European IT market. And today, we'd like to share our perspective. Now, this webinar, it will be recorded so that you can watch it again later, or you can also share it with your colleagues. In addition, all participants today will also receive our Predictions 2026 report, which summarizes all of these topics again that you can also share afterwards. So my name is Felix. I'm Marketing and Account Manager at PAC. And I'm very happy that I get to introduce three fantastic speakers today. Let's start with Stephanie Cha. So Stephanie, she is a Director of Studies at IDATE, which is now part of PAC, the PAC group. And Stephanie works on market research and analysis, how telco markets are evolving, and from demand trends to modeling and forecasting. She helps operators understand where growth is coming from and which opportunities they can capture, linking what's happening locally with a bigger picture across the global technology and telco space. Now, we also have on this call today as a speaker, Spencer Eisert is a principal analyst here at PAC. He leads our research on AI and digital customer engagement. And Spencer has more than 25 years of experience across enterprise leadership, software strategy, and analyst roles. And now he helps organizations understand how AI, cloud, and security trends shape business decisions and technology adoption. And last but not least, Dan Bieler is also a principal analyst at PAC, and he advises European technology providers and enterprise leaders on digital strategy, business model change, and their role in the digital economy. He also has been collecting experience for more than 20 years, and he brings a strong strategic view on topics such as customer and employee experience, monetization models, and the future of work. Now, these three analysts or speakers today are just a small selected round of analysts from many who were involved in the process of coming up with our predictions. But unfortunately, we cannot have all of them as speakers today. Also an important point, the selection of these topics you will hear today are based on the opinions of our experts. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, but unfortunately, we do not have time for discussions in this webinar, which is of course a pity. However, we would be happy to discuss any of these topics with you personally afterwards. And as we go through this webinar, you might be thinking about how to bring these insights to your teams, your management, or even your clients. And that's where we can support you, of course. We're happy to turn these insights into workshops or webinars through our leadership sessions and discuss what these predictions mean to your own business or for the business of your clients. These topics will also be available on our market intelligence platform. These topics or more research on these topics, where we provide deeper and locally focused insights and highlight some concrete market opportunities. It will also be available in IDATE's market intelligence database. And if you'd like to strengthen your positioning, we're also happy to support you in taking a stronger thought leadership role in the market through custom content. Now, if you have any questions during the webinar, please send it to us in the Q&A chat here on Zoom. And having said that, I will now hand over to Dan, who will give you the first prediction for 2026. Enjoy.
Thank you, Felix. So the first prediction is that sovereign cloud adoption will accelerate. And this is because data-driven innovation, in particular, of course, because of GenAI, this is increasing demand for stricter data controls, compliance, and in particular, also cybersecurity. And we see a real proliferation of new sovereign and hybrid cloud models across Europe so that they can support trusted and also regionally governed and AI-ready infrastructure. And we see, really broadly speaking, three different types of models. The first one are, of course, the US hyperscalers, and they offer regional versions of their public clouds, increasingly, of course, with sovereignty controls that reflect demand by European customers. The second group are the European providers like Stackit, T-Systems, OVH Cloud, and they will gain traction by offering regional alternatives to US hyperscalers. The third group consists of players like Delos Cloud, Blue, Clarence, Sens, and they enable sovereign cloud deployments of US technologies, but they are locally operated. And then there are new emerging arrangements like Deutsche Telekom's Industrial AI Cloud that cater specifically to industry requirements. The reason why these different sovereign cloud solutions appear are clearly related to business challenges like rising geopolitical tensions, stricter data control mandates due to regulatory issues, and so on. And they intensify the pressure on businesses seeking to scale AI and analytics. And the US hyperscalers, they struggle to meet all the different sovereignty, compliance, and national security requirements. So there's clearly a growing demand for sovereign cloud and sovereign AI deployments so that the European businesses can advance their cloud capabilities, can address data residency issues, security, and governance-related issues. For the IT service providers and the ecosystems in the space, this means that different cloud models are emerging that need to be supported. They will really offer new opportunities for these IT service providers in the form of integration expertise that can be provided, in the form of vertical expertise, regulatory understandings for particular sectors or use cases, and of course, as mentioned before, the security frameworks. The value for the buyers in the form of the CEO or a CIO, CTO, is that sovereignty is increasingly seen as a strategic necessity. For instance, for boosting resilience, meeting regulatory compliance, secure cloud deployment and sensitive workloads, and of course also to reduce dependencies on these big global vendors, the US hyperscalers. And at the same time, one must say that there can be a premium cost attached to these sovereign cloud environments. And so the decision makers, they will have to weigh up carefully the different pros and cons for sovereign versus public or private cloud environments. And therefore, we believe that the strictest form of sovereignty models will actually stay niche. With this, let's move on to the second prediction. And this is that the AI hype will calm down in 2026. Of course, everybody is currently talking about the potential for stock market corrections, and this might come or might not come in 2026. But what we do believe and predict is that business leaders will take a much closer look at their AI pilots and use cases, and they will align the AI investments much more tightly with core business priorities. They will focus much more on real pain points rather than just explore AI in so-called bolt-on projects. And we also predict that funds from ailing AI pilots will be redirected. They will focus much more on results-oriented AI solutions and push AI investments towards scalable solutions and value-creating type of use cases. The executives, in other words, they will demand much more measurable returns than in 2025 and previously. And the most active sectors for AI that we predict relate to financial services, retail, and also supply chain operations. In the regulated space, AI will tick along a little bit more slowly because of certain data regulation constraints. The business challenge is that in 2025, we saw inflated expectations and random AI pilots, and that in 2026, there is a much more realistic perspective on AI, what it can deliver, We have seen enormous investments, but very little returns. So the focus will be much more on real business value. And in addition, we believe that there will be a resurfacing focus on the workforce, on employees. They will move much more center stage than in 2025. We see a lot more emphasis on reskilling, human-machine collaboration issues, and also AI will be rethought as much more than just a headcount reduction tool. We will see the value of the human in the loop concept. This will become much clearer, and those executives who in 2026 only treat AI solely as a cost-cutting lever, they will certainly miss the deeper transformational opportunities that AI does offer. For the IT service providers, we see AI as a new growth opportunities because they will step in and expand the AI potential beyond the implementation and integration types of services, and they will move much deeper into business model consulting, data governance, compliance, end-to-end process transformation, and across workflows and also across value streams. For the tech leaders, this means that they will also rely much more heavily on IT service providers as far as AI is concerned. They will work with them on deep technical AI guidance, and also they will build a new form of trust through rigorous LLM testing. The value for the CEOs and the CIOs is that thanks to this AI reality check, business leaders have a real opportunity to conserve resources just as the tech leaders have. And this means that they will elevate the IT service providers into integrators for full transformation partners, where they discuss and negotiate shaping of AI roadmaps, getting help to end non-performing AI projects and use cases, to drive enterprise-wide deployments of AI, and also to move much deeper into real change management as opposed to just AI implementation. And as mentioned, the human component will manifest itself in the form of much deeper AI training. And these steps will also provide a good platform for turning AI into a real growth engine beyond 2026. Now, with this, over to you, Stephanie, for the third prediction.
Thank you, Dan. So the next prediction, and it's a continuity with the sovereign cloud that we saw in the first prediction, we will look at digital sovereignty that will become really a primary driver in tech investments in the EU next year. So digital sovereignty has been moving very rapidly up the agenda for the European organization. The priority is really to reduce dependence on the dominant technology providers, mostly the non-EU ones, obviously. And to that goal, we're seeing the public sector and the regulated industries accelerate their shift toward open source and sovereign infrastructure, whether that's secure GPUs, edge clouds, and even quantum-ready environment. Now, with the AI Act and the tighter rules on cloud and data, sovereignty is really becoming a true source of competitive advantage. So where we are today, we've seen that business leaders are facing rising regulatory and operational risk for mainstream cloud services. You can mention compliant exposure, cost increases, vendor lock-in. And to manage these risks, they need to explore sovereign and open source options early, even if the market is still emerging, because obviously this will shape access to future cloud and AI innovation. And IT service providers are central to making sovereignty practical. They're the one delivering secure, compliant, and vendor-independent cloud strategies, and they are helping organizations meet Europe's requirements around data control and AI governance, which are included in the AI Act. And there are several benefits to embed sovereignty and open source in organization. So as I was saying, to gain stronger compliance, greater trust, more stable operations, but also to improve flexibility and negotiating power. And lastly, to build a clearer path towards long-term digital independence.
Great. Now, the fourth prediction relates to S/4HANA and the migration. We predict that over half of companies either will have completed or are nearly completed in terms of the SAP transition. And we believe and predict that we reach the tipping point in mature markets like Germany, where we see that the SAP partners will increasingly face a sales instead of a delivery problem. We see a shift from the implementation market to an operations market. And even the operations market is slowly coming under pressure as the acceptance of SaaS models is growing amongst enterprise customers, because SAP has positioned itself as a SaaS player with a long-term strategic delivery model. So in other words, there is a shift happening from greenfield to brownfield migration. And the future growth we will see primarily coming from smaller and medium-sized enterprises, which means also that there are smaller scopes in terms of the projects, and also a higher acceptance of S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition. The business challenge that is related to this migration means that the pressure that businesses faced in terms of costs and slow process are actually improving. The good news, if you like, for companies is that migration and planning issues as part of the migration is beginning to improve. And there is a falling demand for the consultant market, meaning that there's an easing pressure on the consultants. There are better qualified consultants available more easily. And this means that there is a reduction in costs, and also the projects will speed up. Those organizations that have already completed their transition will also benefit, because, of course, also for them, the expertise is available more easily, and also downstream adjustments and innovative enhancements will become easier for them to manifest. In terms of the IT service provider landscapes, is that we see that traditional SAP service partners face growing pressure. Many of them have expanded their teams in the past to meet the demand for S/4HANA migration. And so they will struggle to keep up full utilization rates. And so we see a declining growth in the SAP service markets. In other words, there's a decoupling between the SAP platform versus the systems integration growth. And successful consultants, they will have to pivot to SAP line of business solutions. They will have to focus much more on AI-driven use case deployment and also integration issues. They will have to deliver high business value, more rapid ROI on the projects, and also consider developing proprietary IP assets like vertical AI solutions or functional S/4HANA enhancements. And importantly, they also have to position themselves as innovation partners for future requirements. The SAP ecosystem as a whole has to consider how it will manage this changing environment, where we see automation in delivery, where we see slowly emerging overcapacities, we see higher costs of sales, therefore, and we still see the demand for a higher participation in SAP's own growth and innovation type of activities. These IT service providers essentially serve three different business models simultaneously: the performance-centric, the product-centric, and the customer-centric business models. And it's virtually impossible to represent all of these different business models with a single operating central model. Now, for the buyer side, the CEOs and the CIOs, this means that customers should ensure that the service partners use AI and smart tools, because this will make the migration path leaner and faster. And they should work with the partners to really gain benefits that go beyond the pure efficiency type of focus that they have often done in the past. And they should also embrace the innovation through effective change management processes. And with this, over to you, Spencer, for the next prediction.
Thank you very much, Dan. So for prediction number 5, this was written by my colleagues, cybersecurity lead analyst colleagues, Wolfgang and Eric. And it's focusing on ransomware and machine accounts and how they are going to compel manufacturers to prioritize identity and test next generation encryption. So PAC predicts that in 2026, many manufacturers will experience shutdowns lasting 24 to 48 hours due to ransomware attacks targeting sign-in systems and plant data memory. With AI-based machine identities set to outnumber people in the coming years, attackers will find new opportunities to breach systems within complex plant environments. In response, PAC predicts companies will implement short-lived logins and stricter access rules and begin trialing post-quantum crypto, or PQC, for code signing. Moreover, new data localization rules will require that sensitive data remain within the country where it's generated. So what this means in a business challenge context is that old setups that use long-lived tokens are providing too much access. So once a key leaks, attackers can move freely across manufacturers, and even if user passwords are protected. Leaders must upgrade sign-in, access, and encryption without stopping production and meet 2026 compliance and data sovereignty needs while keeping systems simple and contained. From a partner service ecosystem perspective, partners should adopt an identity-first operational technology, OT, and IT plan by segmenting network zones, implementing one-way read-only links for plant data, and creating manual fallback runbooks. From a end user, CIO, CEO, leadership, senior leader perspective, PAC recommends that CXOs act now by funding OT identity upgrades, setting reliability targets for machine identities, approving PQC pilots backed by a cryptographic inventory, and requiring proof that sensitive data stays where it should. Now I'll move to prediction number 6. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Spencer. So we predict that transaction-based pricing decouples implementation from platform usage. And this means that there will be very different growth rates between IT services and public IaaS and PaaS and SaaS. In fact, we predict that worldwide IT services will grow by 4% in 2026 versus 19% for SaaS, public IaaS, and PaaS. And as a result, the IT service market will shrink from 1.4 times the size of the SaaS, IaaS, and PaaS market in 2025 down to 1.2 times in 2026. And just to give you a comparison, in 2023, the IT services market was still 1.9 times larger. And later this decade, we expect that the SaaS, public IaaS, and PaaS market will actually surpass the IT services market. So in terms of the business challenge that we are observing here, is that IT service providers clearly must transform their business to benefit from the tech growth that we see, because the platforms and services operate on very different business models, and usage-based models tie to API calls, tokens, images, and they let the services scale with transactions. For the IT service providers and systems integrators, it's therefore a real challenging situation because they grow more slowly than these cloud platforms. And usage-based models, they outperform this traditional headcount-based time and material model. And the cloud platform scale revenues with rising workloads, on the other hand. Think of compute, storage, network, transactions, AI training, data searches, and so on. They all monetize instantaneously. And the service partners, they mainly grow by adding billable heads or hours. Now, for the IT service providers, this means that they will have to intensify their own transformation activities. They will no longer match the growth of SaaS, public IaaS, and PaaS firms. And they will increasingly focus on productized, outcome-based SLAs, ROI-focused GenAI and Agentic AI use cases. They will also increasingly look at integrating their global capability centers with existing innovation consulting type of offerings. And in addition, they will focus on developing the product development to support value stream type of activities. And the leading IT services firms, we believe, will offer specialized service as a software solutions. They will develop much more deeply embedded AI solutions. They will move into strategic API sharing and microservice type of architectures. And they will also look at developing blocking non-partner AI agents and LLM crawlers for business clients. And as mentioned earlier on as well, they will build in security and compliance solutions. For the end user, CEO and CIO and CTO, it means that the successful transformation of these IT service providers will transform the IT service providers into real business partners rather than just technology suppliers. And this means that there will be a closer alignment between tech issues and issues and priorities that matter to business line managers. And from a partner management perspective, as these IT service providers are changing, we see and predict that there will be a much greater emphasis on using OKRs to define and track business goals, that we see a much greater emphasis on aligning service level agreements and KPIs with business objectives. We see a much greater emphasis on auditability of contracts, transparency, if you like. A greater flexibility will be requested through exit clauses, through pricing adjustments. Quarterly reviews will become much more normal, and also issues around data portability to smoothen potential exit scenarios, just as our ongoing evaluation process of cost-efficient alternatives will become much more normal. And with this, back over to you.
Thank you, Dan. So for prediction number 7, this was written by my colleague Sydney, who is one of our lead analysts in our business applications and enterprise software part of our analyst business. And Sydney wrote that AI will shift from a feature to AI as the foundation in the enterprise software side of the market. So over the next 2 years, enterprise software will shift towards AI native architectures that combine reasoning, retrieval, and feedback loops, enabling agents in the AI context to move from answering questions to executing back office processes, an area which at the moment we've not really seen a lot of depth in due to the relative nascent nature of agentic AI in this space. So complex back office hasn't been deconstructed yet, but it will be for value. And while off-the-shelf large language models, or LLMs, tools remain inherently probabilistic and error-prone as standalone systems, AI-native platforms in the enterprise space, though not perfect, will achieve greater production reliability through structured workflows, validation, and human-in-the-loop controls. From a business challenge perspective, PAC sees that many AI initiatives built on standalone LLM tools are stalling due to reliability, compliance, and frankly, the most common thing is around operational risk appetite and concerns. As a result, the shift to AI native enterprise platforms is accelerating, enabling the secure and scalable automation of business critical processes. And if we just look at this part of the ecosystem over the last year and take, for example, companies like Salesforce or ServiceNow, their rapid evolution of their capabilities, whilst also managing that trust and risk appetite and portfolio with customers through a more sort of standardized, secure method through the enterprise platform, is growing exponentially. When we think of this from an IT service provider's perspective, IT service providers can accelerate time to value through pre-built integrations, automation templates, and industry accelerators, enabling faster, more secure adoption of AI-driven automation in core business processes. The common back office ones, or complex, back office ones we talked about just now. From an end user leadership perspective, CEOs and CIOs should assess where LLM tools make sense in low risk use cases for now, but more importantly, going forwards into 2026 and beyond, where AI native platforms are required for critical workflows and how quickly the organization can standardize on, importantly, governed automation. And with this, I'll move to prediction number 8. And with prediction number 8, this is one that was written by myself and also my colleague Jennifer. And we feel that agentic AI will autonomously govern the customer lifecycle across 2026, but potentially create a trust paradox. So by the end of 2026, PAC predicts that the customer journey will shift from existing static interactions that have been there for a couple of decades now towards an autonomous agentic AI-led customer journey. Brands will leverage generative engine optimization, or GEO, a sister discipline to the longer established SEO for search engines, for discovery and deploy agentic models to realize and scale real-time dynamic pricing across physical and digital channels in conjunction with GEO. However, this reliance on agentic automation brings a high risk, as PAC predicts that 1/3 of brands will suffer significant erosion of customer trust due to poorly integrated AI agents to meet complex customer needs. If we think about the business challenge for a second, we consider that CXOs will face the urgent problem of balancing the aggressive pursuit of AI-driven revenue optimization and the very real danger of alienating customers through insincere and impersonal service interfaces, despite providing a veneer of sincerity, which I think a lot of us can see when we use public-facing large language models now, how they respond in a overly pleasing manner. And so there needs to be a lot of sensitivity around this type of response models with regards to customer journeys. From a service provider perspective, PAC advises that service providers evolve from deploying isolated AI tools to orchestrating a unified agentic AI architecture that spans the customer journey, not just focuses on certain key points. Their role is to integrate the data pipelines required for GEO brand narratives with real-time analytics needed for areas like dynamic pricing engines. And for C-suite leaders, PAC advocates that this prediction underscores the crucial connection between AI maturity and market viability. Successfully navigating this shift unlocks higher margins through dynamic pricing and future-proofs brand visibility via GEO. With that, I will move to the ninth and the final one I'll be presenting today. And this was written by my colleagues Ada and Arnold, and their focus for prediction 9 has been around the EU-driven digital product passport, and how this will encourage pioneers and create a vendor landscape over the coming year. So in 2026, the digital product passport, or DPP, will have a concrete impact in two respects. On one hand, an initial vendor landscape for DPP software will emerge, given the relative nascent nature of what this is at the moment currently. But by the end of 2026, PAC expects there to be around 20 vendors servicing this market across Europe, which will have launched their first dedicated offerings. And on the other hand, PAC expects at least 3 innovators to emerge with advanced ambitions beyond DPP, pure DPP, sorry, regulatory environment requirements. From a business challenge perspective, the EU Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, or ESPR, forms a baseline for sustainable products and a circular economy. It requires DPP, as I've just talked about, with product-specific data. And the EU is taking steps gradually to implementing the DPP approach across the European market. And for service providers, PAC advises that to view DPP as more than a tool for staying compliant with ESPR, because it can be a product-specific communication channel for customers as well. And the DPP can provide data in line with ESPR plus additional services on top, enhancing the user experience, which is a key role the service providers can provide in either building service offerings themselves on top of the vendor landscape that we've already mentioned, or supporting bespoke requirements, DPP requirements for organizations. And finally, for this element, this prediction has 2 implications for business leaders. First, the discussion around ESPR will have a concrete impact in 2026, with software vendors and best practices emerging. And this means that the time has come for organizations to define their path to DPP. And secondly, PAC encourages business leaders to view the DPP as a tool to enhance customer experience, not just something to meet some regulatory requirements. And with that, I'd like to pass on now to Stephanie for the final prediction.
Thank you, Spencer. So last but not least, with my colleagues Carole and Jean-Paul, we see next generation's wireless become a reality in 2026. So what are we talking about? Some very technical words. Let's talk about 5G Advanced, 5G private networks, and hybrid satellite integration. So it's not secret that we're entering a phase of rapid 5G expansion. At IDATE, we predict that global adoption will pass 4 billion SIM cards by the end of next year. Obviously, China is driving in terms of volumes, and the US in terms of penetration. In Europe, we'll mostly see private 5G growing across all industrial sites, supported by new local spectrum and working alongside Wi-Fi 6 and 7 for everything that is related to advanced IoT. At the same time, we see 5G standalone, so that's when the core network is 5G. It will increasingly be combined, with the satellite services, and that will create hybrid offers for sectors like utilities, emergency response, and transport. And as 5G Advanced comes in, so 5G Advanced, it's the next evolutionary step of 5G based on the release 18 of the 3GPP standards. Please come to me for more explanation on that if you're not familiar. So 5G Advanced will deliver significant performance improvements and effectively pave the way towards 6G that we should expect to come to market in the next 4 years. The problem is that today many organizations still operate on legacy networks, and that's a problem because they don't provide the latency, the reliability, the coverage, or the device density that is really needed for modern and distributed operations. If you want to have a connected warehouse, you need, for example, the latest 5G standards. It's a challenge because when you think about specialist connectivity providers, they don't just deploy the technology, they really operate it and secure it as well. So they manage the monitoring, the optimization, and the service levels, for example. And if you want to put it in other words, they remove a lot of pressures from internal teams and make it easier for organizations to move faster with more advanced capabilities. And what's the real benefit behind that? Well, for business leaders, it means higher productivity, better continuity thanks to this hybrid 5G and satellite connectivity, and secure, scalable network foundation, which is entirely ready to support future innovation and help the organization stay competitive. And with that, we're done with the predictions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, as mentioned in the beginning, please feel free to contact us if you're open for any discussions, if you have questions. We're gonna start with the Q&A now. There's quite a lot of questions. I know we can't answer all of them today, but for any question we did not answer, we will get back to you and continue the discussion. So I've got the first question here. Now, will sovereign clouds account for the majority of the workload in Europe? Dirk is asking.
Maybe I can take this one. No is the simple answer. We believe that for all sorts of reasons, sovereign cloud will account only for a relatively small share of all cloud workloads. The reasons are A, the pricing that I mentioned, but also many business and tech leaders will think very carefully what really needs a sovereign cloud type of environment in terms of regulatory requirements or industrial espionage or whatever, compared to normal business operations that are perfectly fine to be managed by normal cloud, private, public, hybrid cloud type of environment. So in essence, we predict high single digits in 2026 for sovereign cloud environments. Others predict much higher percentages, but we believe that there are not infinite reasons why you should move the workloads into a sovereign cloud environment for all of your activities.
And if I could just add something to sort of follow up, because I think Dan's made some excellent points there as well, which is that if we look at a lot of the sovereign conversation over the last year and where some organizations are likely to work on it next year, it's very much around the compute side of sovereignty, where it becomes a lot more complicated. And I discussed some of this during Prediction 7, Sydney's one around enterprise applications, is if you're an organization that has committed 5 years to Salesforce, 3 years to ServiceNow, whoever it is, the sovereignty conversation becomes quite complicated when trying to understand how to make those parts of your business, more sovereign. Not to say that it can't be done over time if the demand's there, but it's still early days in that part of the sort of IT world, where there's a lot more progress is for, more sort of bespoke systems being developed or systems that are able to be deployed directly on sovereign-based compute services.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's jump right into the next one. Christoph is asking, will a crash of AI shares and the AI opportunities for 2026?
I think we can all take that probably.
You want to go first, Spencer?
Okay, I'll go for the most controversial thing to say here. Will a crash in AI shares? Well, look, the stock market never goes up continuously, even though some people have said that over my lifetime, and every time we've seen a drip and a drop. If you look at the dot-com burst and bubble and boom and bubble, everybody then predicted once that happened that the internet would not be the same. Over the long period of time, look at how the internet as a technology has permeated our lives and how much that's stabilized and used. So yes, there does need to be some course correcting with regards to some very large American companies creating a circular artificial environment to goose their numbers, but that won't kill AI over the long term. And when we say AI over the long term, I'm talking about the deep learning style of AI. So the stuff that allows us to do the level of automation that we haven't had historically, that in reality that we've all really wanted to be able to do in organizations. So yes, I think there'll be a market correction. There'll be some caution because of that. But in the long term, this is a technology that's here to stay.
Great. Thank you. Anything to add, or shall we close?
I
What a
think
question to
Spencer
close
made
on.
all the main points here. Yeah.
Fantastic. All
What a
right.
question to
Thank you very
close on
much.
as well. Will there be doom and gloom over the next 2 years?
Now, with respect to the time, we're already 1 minute over. But what I wanted to ask you three is, now we have 10 top predictions, but to summarize, how would you, or what are the key takeaways regarding your expectations for 2026 in 2 sentences? Maybe Stephanie, if you want to start.
I think from actually my two predictions, it's really related. It's that in Europe, actually, with the AI Act moving forward, going beyond just a directive and into implementation, reshaping a bit the way we do things, combined with this next generation wireless access, it will be a game changer for IoT and vertical industries starting 2026, and that's where growth can come from.
Thank you very much. Dan, would you like to continue?
Sure. I predict that 2026 will be a year of correction and reflection, in particular as far as AI is concerned. So a much greater emphasis on the return on invest. We've seen a lot of enthusiasm for spending on AI in 2025. In 2026, I predict we see a lot of enthusiasm on looking at the benefits, the returns that AI can generate.
Great. Spencer.
Would it be a shock if I said I'm not going to say anything about AI? Because if that's the case, I'm lying. I am definitely talking about AI. What I would definitely say about 2026 is we're going to be in a place where we're going to start to see the complex use cases for deconstructing business processes become a more tangible reality for organizations. That I think is going to be frankly led through a lot of the enterprise applications providers because they're built and service providers because they're building patterns for within industries, and that comfort zone once organizations feel that there is a level of standardization and scalability, that's when we'll start to see the real sort of value, the force magnifier value of this technology, and I think that's going to happen throughout 2026.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Spencer, Dan, Stephanie. We are very glad that all the participants, you could join us today. And we look, of course, forward to discussing these trends with you in more detail. But for now, I think everybody here will wish you a great rest of the year and a happy holiday season. And hopefully we see each other soon again. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you.